And here's the question for you. How important are trusted and meaningful relationships in your life?
Joining us today, we're going to go ahead and introduce San Diego native Shawn Cassidy, who's an author, inspiring speaker, entrepreneur, and leadership business consultant and coach. Recognized as a top national $2 billion loan producer over his 30-year real estate finance career, Shawn is recognized for his expertise in high-performance sales, team relationship building, and exceptional H2G customer service. His recently registered trademark H2G trusted relationship model is covered in his best-selling book, From Fears to Freedom, The H2G Revolution, is a highly endorsed personal and business life formula that's helping individuals and organizations realize and obtain real personal and professional growth, fulfillment, and success. He is a co-founder and the president of the lodges at Gettysburg with our very own luxury agent, Terry Harner of the Harner Group, a founder of the Leadership and Freedom Center, a 63-acre corporate conference center and specialty lodging and event destination in historic Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. So with that, please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Shawn Cassidy to join us for the next 30 minutes.
Thank you, Courtney. After that introduction, I'm going to hire Courtney as my agent. Okay? Very generous, very kind. Thank you. The question that I'd like to start off and ask you today, every one of us, and it's a loaded question. How important are trusted and meaningful relationships in your life? Please, feel free. Extremely. Extremely.
Teaching our 15-year-old daughter the importance of that.
Very good. Teaching our youth. Yes, Ed.
Priceless.
Priceless. Thank you.
Top priority.
Top priority. Top priority. Thank you. Anyone else? Everything. Everything. When we think of our marriage, our partnerships, our workplace, our charity teams, our volunteer teams, relationships at the end of the day, there really is nothing that I feel, and just like most of you have shared with me, is more important. What we did this past year is we interviewed over 300 people in all walks of life. Engineers, CPAs, attorneys, flight attendants, college students, realtors as well, small businesses, and we asked that very question. How important are trusted and meaningful relationships in their life? And you know what the answer was? It's everything you just shared with me. The answers were three answers. One said everything. Many said 100%. And the others said nothing else matters at the end of the day. That response came from 96% of the people. 96% of the people. The question that I'd like to ask you here today, in the hearts and minds of your buyers and sellers, do you think it's any different? No. Thank you. I don't think it is either. They're preoccupied with that. So the question is, if that really is so important to them, and we realize it is, how do we connect with them? What is the single most important ingredient that we need to have in real estate to connect with our buyers and sellers? One word. Trust. I heard it uniformly. It's trust. So what I'd like to do, and allow me here, is I'd like to spend a little time in just let us understand what trust is. When I was in USC in 1983, I was very fortunate that I had a visiting professor from MIT. His name was Dr. Herb Shepard. Little did I know at the time that Dr. Shepard was one of the foremost authorities on organizational development in the world. Incredible. Understanding how people tick in organizations. Understanding how organizations could be more effective and healthier and more impactful to the people they're serving. This individual was absolutely brilliant and inspired me like no end. And he inspired me so much that I wrote a paper at the time at USC called 7 Steps to Understanding and Building the Trusted Relationship when I was at grad school at USC. And I went home and I put it in a file cabinet for 30 years. I typed that on one of those old IBM Selectra 3 typewriters. Anybody in the room know what those are? We were on this new computer age, but I was on the old IBM Selectra typewriter, backspace with the pinky finger, correctable ribbon. But I had that thing sitting in a file cabinet for all those years. And years later, I went back there, and a visiting professor said, Shawn, did you ever do anything with that leadership ladder that you put together, the trusted relationship ladder? And I said, no, I didn't. He said, you should think about it. So I'd like to share that with you now today. I'd like to let us first understand what trust is a little bit. And then secondly, after we understand it, how do we build it? How do we nurture it? How do we grow it? How do we retain it? And then lastly, what we'll share with, as realtors, how do we, on a day in and day out basis, how do we connect with our buyers and sellers? How do we apply that trust? Trust starts off with likability. The very first rung, people like working with people they like. Fair enough? We like working with people we like. We have to start off at that very, very initial stage of building rapport. Everybody has unique idiosyncrasies, unique personalities. We have to be able to connect with them. But we have to understand if we're going to move up to that next rung, we have to have that initial likability stage. The second rung on the ladder is understanding. How important is it for us to understand people? It's critical as well, right? We have one opportunity to make a first impression on somebody. You don't have a second chance to make a first opportunity. Now, in the likability stages, we move up to understanding. That's very important. We're very, very judging people as a group, right? We have a tendency to judge people, and many times that first impression isn't always the accurate one, right? Many times we've met people later in life, and in that very first encounter, we misunderstood this person, right? Or we prejudged this person. Why? That's our makeup for most of us. That's how our brain is hardwired to think. But when we go to that second tier, that second ladder, it's all about understanding. And what I'm referencing there is we have to understand who this person really is. Tell me a little bit about their background, their upbringing, their schooling, their culture, right? Their values, their belief system. Many times when we first meet somebody, we expect to jump from like to respect to trust. Can it happen that quick overnight? Absolutely not. But we're not taking enough time to really understand who these people are. Did this individual grow up the son of a pig farmer in Lee Summit, Missouri? Or did this individual grow up in an orphanage home in the Bronx in New York City? Tell me something about that person, right? How much more will people open up and we can start to really connect and communicate with them when we understand who they are, where they're from, and what their life journey and experiences have been all about? Does that connect with you? Is that real? That's what it's about. The next rung that we go up to on building trust is competency. How important is core competency? We have to have the skill set. We have to have the expertise. People want to work with the best of the best. People want to know that these people have the training, they have the professionalism, they have the communication skills. They have all the skill set that they need to do what? To best represent them. What I'd like to share with you that I think is critically important. You can be an Einstein in your field, in your profession. You can be the best, sharpest individual and know every detail about a real estate contract. And know everything about every disclosure. But if one does not have the ability to effectively what? Convey that, to demonstrate that, and to articulate that, what happens? They come up short. right? They come up short in that area. So we really have to make sure from the core competency standpoint that once we have that training, once we have that skill set, that we have to be able to effectively demonstrate it and articulate it. Third rung. Once we have done that, and we start off with the likability, and the likability is there from the client, and there's an understanding of who we are and who they are, and we've graduated to that next level of demonstrating core competency, which is very critical, you're going to be given an opportunity. What you do with that opportunity will determine whether you move up that ladder and whether the development of trust will continue. There's a couple things that can happen. When you get that first opportunity, whether it's a listing appointment or you get a buyer up on an up call and you put them in the backseat of the car and you take them out, you may hit a home run. You may knock it out of the park and really exceed expectations. That's a nice position to be in, and you're well on your way to establishing and developing trust very, very quickly. Number two, what could possibly happen? Number two, it may be just a ho-hum experience. You didn't exceed expectations. Just another day in the park. Buyers and sellers have extraordinary high expectations. Is that fair to say? And they should. Why? Because they're tuned in to one international powerful radio station. Has anybody heard of WII-FM? Thank you. What's in it for me? What's in it for me? And they should be, right? It's the most important asset that they're going to deal with. It should be. It's critically important, okay? So we have to make sure on that part of it that we focused on that. What's number three that can happen? You can trip and stumble. You can trip and stumble. There may be a technology issue. You may have a breakdown with your computer in the office. You don't have the updated information as you're scrambling to go meet them on appointment. One of your colleagues, there was a mix-up, maybe on the scheduled time that you were supposed to meet this person. You got stuck on the freeway. I was on this freeway 5 hours the other day with the fires that we had here in Southern California. Didn't anticipate it. 5 hours, 25-minute ride. Are people going to be forgiving? I'm seeing heads. Tell me. Yes, I hear no, and I hear sometimes. All three answers are correct. Sometimes people are very, very forgiving, and then there's times when they're not. But let me ask you this question. Where would any of us be today without a second chance opportunity? Where would we be without a second chance opportunity? We have to ask for that second chance. If there's something beyond our control, special circumstances that happen, we didn't do anything intentionally. There was no deceit here. Things happen, right? Accidents happen. Circumstances come our way. Don't be afraid to ask for that second chance opportunity. It can make that difference in growing that relationship. Don't give up on it at that time. The next level we get to, if we've exceeded expectations, if we've capitalized on that opportunity, if we've seized that moment, or if we got that second chance opportunity, we're at the next rung, and that rung is respect. We must never forget, respect is not a birthright, is it? It's not an entitlement. There are some people that think it is, and that situation doesn't last long. Respect has to be earned. You need to earn it, repeat it, and keep it. Very valuable. And it takes a lot of effort to earn it. It doesn't come overnight. And it starts with those infancy stages and those rungs that we talked about in order to get there. You've got to have the likability. You got to have the understanding who the person is. You have to effectively demonstrate your skill set and core competency. Absolutely paramount. And then when you have that opportunity, capitalize on it. And once you have that respect, and once you've earned it, you move up to that next critical step that we all talked about here earlier, trust. And trust covers all of it when you think about it at the end of the day. Honor, integrity, commitment, communication, confidentiality, particularly in this industry. Confidentiality, how important is that? But you get to that highest level of trust, where the loyalty really is. Stephen Covey says trust is the highest human emotion. It brings out the very best in people. So true. So true at the end of the day. One more level that I talk about in my trust ladder, it's called unconditional trust. Very few of us will ever experience that in our lifetime. You'll usually run into situations where people on the battlefield in the military will take a bullet for their teammate. Or you'll hear of an emergency situation, a natural disaster, where someone will just unconditionally lay it out there and give up their life to help out a loved one or even a stranger. And that moves us when that happens because it's rare, but unconditional trust. So that's understanding the 7-step trusted relationship ladder that in 1983, which ironically was the same time that Gary Keller started Keller Williams in 1983. I was in graduate school at USC. I think he finished in 1977 in school at Baylor. And what came to me one night was, now that we understand it, trust, a basic understanding of it, how do we nurture it, how do we develop it, and how do we grow it? Something came to me in the middle of the night called H2G. H2G. I think it came out of this. Does everybody recognize what's in this plastic bottle? This is probably the biggest international brand in the world, H2O. We need air and we need water to what? To live, to survive. And what I'd like to share with you here today and propose is that we need H2G to survive and grow and nurture trusted and meaningful relationships. Please allow me to give you the operational definition of what I've shared in the book. And we don't have a lot of time today, so I'm going to abbreviate this very quickly, as well as all the ingredients, all the properties that make up H2G. H2G is my secret formula. One person, one relationship, and one team at a time. To do what? To adopt and embrace a passionate and living H2G, head, heart, and gut, emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual mindset. It's a mindset. So you're adopting and developing this mindset on a daily disciplined basis to do the most important thing in your life, to build trusted and meaningful relationships. And why? Why? So we can realize growth, fulfillment, and success in our lives. How does that resonate with you? Thank you. Thank you. Let me briefly go over those ingredients really quick. And then once I do, I want to share how we're going to take H2G and we're going to apply that to the real estate profession today. It begins with the head. This little 3-pound miracle worker that sits on our shoulder. There's 100 billion neurons in this small brain that we have, and it is a small brain. It's only 3 pounds. I like to think there's a lot of intelligence up here for all of us, but it's only 3 pounds up here. 78% water. All of our emotions, all of our knowledge, all of our anxiety, all of our intellect, it all starts right up here. Many people will say that it starts with purpose in life. There's a great author that wrote a book with a purpose-driven life. Very powerful. And the only thing that I say is I step back one step and I say it starts with self. With each one of us, it starts with self-awareness. We have to know our strengths and we have to know our weaknesses. We have to know who we are. Right? Then we have to be committed to purpose. And again, I'm not going to go over all of these ingredients in detail, but I'd like to fire them off for you. It goes with self, purpose, focus. How powerful is focus? We've got to have focus. And it's hard to do that in this distracting new digital revolution that we're living in this day and age, right? Constantly being interrupted with the texts and the emails. We're in a crazy fast pace right now, folks. The focus always has to be there. The focus has to be on sharing, caring, and serving at the end of the day. That's what that focus is. And we'll come back and revisit that shortly. We have to be effective communicators. effective communicators is critical. We have to be critical and strategic thinkers. We can't just sit in the back seat and go along for the ride anymore. We have to be engaged. We have to be thinking, right? We have to be involved. Core competency, we talked about, very critical. We have to be a team player. In KW and Keller Williams, they focus on that quite a bit. Courtney, the team player part of it is so critical and so paramount to any organization. And we also have to be relationship builders. Starts with right here. What are we going to bring to the team? What value add are we going to bring to the team to be a difference maker, to be an agent of change, to help out our team? Very, very important. And the last thing is what I refer to in the head, the last ingredient is what I refer to as a full-time student. Now, is that going back to grad school and getting your master's or your PhD? Not in this case, but if you do, that's fine. Academia is outstanding. Anything we can do to learn and to grow is very important. But when I refer to the full-time student, I'm referring to learning, relearning, and unlearning. Learning, relearning, and unlearning. How important is that in our field? Very, very important. We're in a very, very dynamic market. It's constantly changing, right? We have to be on top of our game all the time. Updated regulations, updated disclosures. And that's why that training is so critical all the time for us as professionals and demonstrating that core competency. Let's talk about the heart. The head and the heart are connected. Physiologically, everybody in this room most likely has 4 chambers in their heart. 4 chambers. And that head and that heart are connected. The first one starts off being the passionate warrior. I refer to as a passionate, peaceful warrior. A passionate, peaceful warrior. Somebody who is so on fire and so enthusiastic and on a mission in terms of what they believe. Think of some people in your life. Mahatma Gandhi, John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Bill Clinton, Susan B. Anthony, John Wooden, the great basketball coach at UCLA. We all have many of them in our minds, right? Many people. Bill Gates in the technology world. Jobs. There's so many people. We could sit here all day. And what I'd like to share with you today, I believe that passionate warrior lies within each and every one of us. All we have to do is ignite it. All we have to do is fire it up, folks. It's there. It's real. Realize it, capture it, understand it, and take action on it. But we can do it, and it's there. The second chamber of the heart is empathy and faith. We have to have empathy and compassion for our fellow human being, right? Very, very important in this world. And unfortunately, sometimes I don't think we have enough of it. I think that's what we're lacking in this crazy, fast-paced world. More empathy, more compassion. The second part of that chamber is faith. I'm talking about faith in a higher spiritual power. Not for me to decide who that is in your life, but we have to have faith in my model and a higher spiritual power. I have mine, and I'm proud of that. And that's my number one team member. He's there for me 24/7, the strongest team member that I can have. Thank you. The third chamber is generosity and gratitude. How big is that chamber? How big is that part? Generosity and gratitude. How many things are we grateful for? The small things sometimes, right? And being able to demonstrate that. We're grateful for all those second chance opportunities. We're grateful for a stranger coming up sometimes just giving us a smile at a time when we need it most. Or a friend picking up that phone when we're in a darker time and saying they are there for us, day or night. We could sit in this room and probably write down 1,000 things that we are grateful for. And the generosity component. Generosity is so special too. We can't give enough of it. And I'm not talking about writing $1 million check for those companies and individuals that can when we have a natural disaster. That's beautiful and that's powerful and that's great. And it's beautiful for humanity when that's demonstrated. But again, I'm talking generosity on the individual scale, on the small scale, what you could do at all levels. Doesn't have to be monetary. And again, it could be as little as a smile, helping a stranger putting their groceries in their car. Small things. Turning off the sprinkler system before you have the open house for your client, right? Getting that done. Just something small. The last chamber, and I'm going over these very quickly. I have them all spelled out in the book. But the last chamber that we're dealing with is a powerful one. Reflection and forgiveness. When I refer to reflection, I'm talking about your quiet time, your unplugged time. This is your prayer time, your meditation time, or your introspective time. This is a time when we learn, right? Quality time. We've got to have that quality time. I take 30 minutes out of the day. It's usually at 5 or 5:30 in the morning, or I do it about 12:30 or 1 o'clock at night before I shut the lights off. But it's my downtime. It's my quality time. We have to have it. How about forgiveness? How powerful is that one? That's that 800-pound gorilla, as they talk about, right? Very, very difficult. Easy to talk about, very, very difficult to deal with. But if we don't forgive, we can't grow. Fair enough? We have to be able to forgive ourselves and forgive others. And if we don't, folks, it's a big burden. So don't wait. Take those actions now. Move on that very quickly. There's a lot of people that are very inspiring in our lives, and there's a lot of leaders that demonstrate trusted and meaningful relationships. We can think of people like Branson with Virgin Companies, which many people have heard. Starbucks founder, Mr. Schultz. He says that he wants to inspire humanity, one person, one cup, and one community at a time. It's incredible. And then you have Gary Keller, who started in 1983 and then reinvented the company in 1986. Started very small. And now here you are today with over 700 offices in the United States, 15 offices internationally and growing, 100,000 agents in the country, and is now recognized as the #1 real estate franchise in the United States. In a 28-year time period. That's incredible. What was it based on? It was based on teams. And it was based on philosophy and a mission statement and a belief statement that he created and his team created, beginning with the win-win, right? We don't do it unless it's a win-win situation. And then going to integrity, which is everything at the end of the day, doing the right thing. And then he talks about commitment, and this team talks about the commitment, the communication, the creativity, and the customer, which always comes first, right? Very powerful. And then the teamwork, where we benefit more as a team, what we're talking about. And obviously trust, which is the core here today. And then you end up with results. Very, very powerful. But what Keller Williams has done very effectively with your Agent Leadership Council, that's what team is all about. Those are what relationships are all about. By having those type of meaningful and trusted relationships where you can build effective teams and have cooperation and have collaboration, have creativity and innovation. You got to have that within teams. That's how teams effectively grow. Very, very powerful. I'd like to leave you with the 5 keys. These are the 5 keys, bless you, that I believe that every seller and every buyer is starving for and looking for in a real estate agent as it relates to the trust. The first one begins with what I call that real connection. We've got to build that rapport. We've got to have that likability and that understanding. Too often times we try to communicate before what? Before we connect, right? It's almost magical. It's like that old E.T. movie, Elliot and E.T., fingers come together. It's almost magical. It's special. You've got to capture that, people. Very, very powerful. We have a tendency, and most of us do, what's the first thing we do? We're too busy talking. And the next thing is effective communication. It's the second thing they're looking for. My mother shared with me at a very, very young age, 95% of the people in the world communicate, Shawn. 5% of the people in the world effectively communicate. What do the 5% of the people do real well? Thank you. You know the answers. They're great listeners. We're too busy talking and we're not listening. If we listen, we hear all their needs, all their desires, all their fears. All we need to do is listen more. I'm guilty of it. I'm working on that every day. I need to listen more. Become emotional, engaged listeners, folks. It's the most powerful thing we can do. Building that rapport and building that relationship. Demonstrating core competency. We talked about that. Very, very critical. Demonstrating core competency, being the best of the best, having that skill set, having our ongoing training. Again, buyers and sellers are starving for it out there, and they're looking to work with the most competent people. The next one is commitment, 5-star commitment, which is part of your principles, your 10 principles that you deal with as well. You have to show people that you what? Care. Thank you. That you care. Where's your commitment level? And in this industry, like we said, it's a very, very high bar of expectation. We've got to care. We've got to commit. We've got to be there for them a lot more than they expect. Very, very critical. The last one is what I refer to as bold courage. You have a program here called Bold, which is very powerful and very effective, and I've had an opportunity to look at that. You have a growth initiative as well. You have a mastermind program. You have mega camps, okay? What am I referring to with bold commitment? Or bold courage? Bold courage is the last one. When you've established this relationship and you feel that the trust is there and you have a very good understanding, you need to be bold. And what I'm referring to is when you're getting ready to list this property and there's 10 repair items that you recognize that need to be addressed and dealt with. Do you ignore them or do you address them? Thank you. You have to be bold. Many people say, "I'll put those on the back end. Don't worry about those. We'll take care of that later." No. You're going to feel comfortable and confident enough with the relationship that you've established with these people to do the right thing. And that's what integrity is about. And that's what the right thing is. Coming out and saying, these repairs need to happen now. Why? You may pass on 5 prospects that come into the property and see maybe a soiled rug here with a dog or an animal. And what do? They turn right around and walk out the door. Does that ever happen to anybody? Yes, absolutely, all the time. Let's be bold. Let's have bold courage. So at the end of the day, what does it start with? It starts with the 7 steps of understanding the trusted relationship ladder, right? Then when you leave here today, I want you to remember one brand outside of H2O. What is that brand? H2G. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Head, heart, and gut. Yes, H2G. And take that H2G from a customer service standpoint on a daily discipline basis and say, how can I apply that to my team? How can I apply that to my buyers and sellers? Have that mindset every day, folks. Because I believe in my heart of hearts, it will make a difference. It really will make a difference on your productivity. Do you believe that trust is the number one ingredient that we have to have? You're going to be tested more and more because in this new digital revolution that we're in, things happen quicker and faster. And I spoke with Mike earlier with the Sturman team right out front, right before we started. And he came up to me and said, "Shawn, your topic today is going to be on," and I said, "trust." And he said, "Wow, how challenging in our industry." And he really inspired me with something. And he said, "Look, Shawn, in our industry, more than any others, we have the shortest amount of time to engage with somebody and to have to build trust in order to have the results that we need." Extremely profound, Mike, and so true. And that's why our head and hearts folks have to be filled and preoccupied every day with that type of mindset. So when you leave here today, ask yourself, what can I do as an agent of change, as a passionate, peaceful warrior, to impact my teams, to inspire people, to serve people? Because at the end of the day, it's all about sharing, caring, and serving. Right? That's what it really is. One person, one trusted relationship, and one team at a time. Thank you.
I help manage the Harner Group over at Keller Williams. We manage all the client relations over there, and basically Shawn's message today it resonates so well with realtors especially. Trusted relationships really are everything, and on a daily basis, it's just something that we rely on. Last year we did about $30 million in sales, and without those trusted relationships that we've developed, none of it could be possible. So I just want to say thanks to Shawn and his great message today. And, it's truly an amazing experience to be able to listen to Shawn speak. So thank you very much.
With the Keller Williams in Carlsbad. And this is actually the second opportunity that I was able to hear Shawn speak. And after the first time, I was anxious to go home. I read the book within 2 days. And as a new agent, what it did inspired me, and I already knew about trust, and I had to develop that with the people that I meet, and on a daily basis. It encouraged me with new clients, but also with my team, and that going from the head to the heart to the gut, and that alignment and the steps to developing the relationship from likability to unconditional trust. It gave me the tools and the keys that I needed to actually further myself in business and obtain the listings and the relationships. And I'm very inspired to take this with me and go into the team that is being developed currently. So thank you, Shawn Cassidy, and I encourage everyone to read the book, From Fears to Freedom.
And I'm with the Stearman Group with Keller Williams, Orange County Coastal Realty. Really enjoyed Shawn's message today. It resonated with me because I focus a large portion of my work on contacting expired listings and FSBOs by phone. I make in the realm of 500 calls a day. 500 calls per week. And the largest challenge for me is establishing trust in a very small amount of time so that I can carry on that conversation, open up the ability to engage the seller and interest them in a presentation from us and ultimately listing their property. And it really hit some key points in me, how I can start focusing more on establishing trust and being able to be far more successful in my telephone efforts and in my in-person listing appointment efforts. So I really, really appreciated Shawn's message today. Thanks.
And I'd like to commend Shawn Cassidy for his brilliant format of making decisions. And that's the H2G. That is head, heart, and gut. And it is an amazing way to be able to make a decision on your life and on your business practices. So thank you, Shawn, for giving us that.